Missouri lawmakers are looking into ways to improve the state's social services for children after families came forward with complaints. The Missouri Department of Social Services and the Children's Division say high turnover of critical staff members combined with a large number of cases piling up are leading to the issues brought up by families in a hearing today. A Southwest Missouri family is proposing a law change that would create more transparency in Children's Division investigations and put communication deadlines in place.
No families are ever left without some form of communication, and I think that's the hardest part, other than of course being away from our grandchildren and our children, is there was no communication.
Transparency is easy when things are going well. It's incredibly difficult, but infinitely more important when there are problems.
Lawmakers cannot introduce new legislation until next year. The governor issued an executive order creating a task force to work on these issues.